Boundel Town Council for Tuesday 21st of November. First item on the agenda, item 117, apologies for absence.
I've had apologies from Councillor S. Oakes and Councillor D. Fuller.
Thank you. 11702, to accept apologies for absence. Do we accept the apologies, please?
Yes.
Thank you. We now move on to item 118, declarations of interest. And to receive and consider any declarations of interest from members and officers under section 50 of the Local Government Act 2000, and that is our standing order 35. This requirement applies only in respect of matters which are to be discussed by the council at this meeting. First and foremost, 11801, to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests. No. 11802, to declare any other interests.
Maybe a bit belt and braces, but as there is a reference to the neighbourhood plan, then I declare my membership of the Glapthorne Neighbourhood Plan Group.
Right. As usual, I will also declare I am a resident of Glapthorne, but I am neither a member of their neighbourhood plan nor their parish council, but I am a resident. 11803, to consider any requests for dispensation. Anybody? No. 11804, to report any gifts or hospitality accepted over the value of £50. No. And finally 11805, to report any inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered. No. Okay, we now move on to item 119, minutes of previous meetings, and 11901, the proposition to approve and sign the minutes of the full council meeting held on 17th of October 2017 as an accurate record, standing order 10C.
Can you just initial that?
Everybody is happy with those minutes. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Chesser is proposing. A seconder, please. Councillor Humphreys. Those in favour of the minutes? Okay, that's 5. Those against? And anybody abstaining?
We weren't there.
2 abstentions because they weren't there. Fine. Lovely. Right. 11902. The proposition to approve and sign the minutes of the Neighbourhood Plan Full Council meeting held on the 7th of November 2017 as an accurate record. Again, our standing order 10C. If everybody's happy with those, can I have a proposer from those who were there? Councillor Glenn. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Chesser. And all those in favour? Again, it's 4 of us. Anybody against? And those abstaining for reason of not being present. Thank you. I'll just catch up with all the signing. Thank you. Right, so that brings us on to the next item, which is 17120, public participation from interested parties or members of the public. Have we had anything notified to us?
Yes, I have a gentleman there who wishes to speak.
Lovely. So, would you like to?
If I may, yes.
Yes.
I'm a committee member of the Friends of Arundel Library. I wondered if I could urge the town council to do their utmost to keep the library open, manned by qualified staff, not by volunteers. That's just my simple request, and I'd be interested to hear what your feelings are on the closure of them.
Thank you very much. You'll hear quite a bit on the subject of our position on the library very shortly when we get to that item. Lee.
I'd like to add to his comments as well, and add my own comments about the library. I don't think that I need to, well, I think I'm very confident that you understand the importance of libraries, and I don't think I need to make a case for the importance of libraries. But I will say that in plain speaking, I think it's shameful what Northamptonshire County Council are proposing, and I think that this will be their legacy. The legacy will be that they have dismantled the library service across Northamptonshire, because that is really what they intend to do. And I find it puzzling that they have presented a consultation paper of 3 options, which it seems they're just box ticking the legalities that they need to follow for this process. Because having listened to the minutes of listened to the recording of your previous meeting, it seems that the NCC is willing to discuss an alternative option for running the Arundel Town Library, and who knows what other libraries they're privately negotiating with through the back door. And these are options that have not been presented to the public. The public does not have any opportunity to feed back on what they might be proposing, which seems to be actually following through on option 3, but giving the councils the opportunity to actually run libraries as community managed libraries, and in effect holding councils hostage. And so now today you're expected to discuss the future of the Arundel Town Library without really any input from your constituents and what the town feels, because of the timeline that has been forced upon you, and ambiguities of the funding, and the ambiguities of the inconclusive report of the consultation, which hasn't been finalized yet. So I would urge you to be vigorous and rigorous, rather, in your response to Northamptonshire County Council, and not pander to what I consider to be them holding you to ransom.
Can I just say, sorry?
Could I speak again?
You can, yes.
You've been so
Yes.
eloquent on the subject. We've got over 1,000 signatures of people that are opposing the closure of the library.
Right.
When you consider as a percentage of the population, I think that's a phenomenal figure, and it's still gathering size. So
Right.
you can feel the strong feelings that there are about the library. And I endorse everything that you said.
We will probably have a good idea of the strength of feeling of the residents of the town, because we've got a questionnaire which is available online. It's mentioned in the Arundel Oracle, it's mentioned in the Nene Valley News article that was out last weekend, and paper copies of it will be available at various places. Thursday night of this week there's a meeting at the Queen Victoria Hall from 7:30 onwards. Predominantly it was intended to talk about neighbourhood plan, but if anybody wants to come along and talk about libraries, the Friends of Arundel Library will be there, and the information will be there, and you'll have a chance to express your opinions on that form that night. And there'll be other opportunities, there'll be other chances when those forms are available to fill in. Did you wish to speak at all about?
I just wanted to come with Joseph. It was just obviously we approached town council and Joseph and his friend started litter picking in Arundel and received very positive feedback from the residents as they're picking. Over 3 collection periods, they've collected over 26 bags, full bags of rubbish
Right.
on 3 occasions. And there's still very much lots of litter still out in Arundel. As a town, we are very good. When you go to places like Corby, it's absolutely disgusting on the roadsides and things like that. So we've approached the town council to see if you would like to get involved, or it's something that can be put, you know, to other people out in the community, whether it's done once a month. But obviously, certainly Joseph and his friend are doing it part of the Duke of Edinburgh. But my husband and myself are doing it, and we're finding it very therapeutic. Basically, making our community a better place to live in. So
Lovely.
I'll leave you to obviously discuss it later.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Mr Mayor, I think we should sort of congratulate the children actually for doing it.
I think so, yes.
I mean, it's
Yes.
something that's well
Yes.
worthwhile, and we have to thank you for doing it.
It is very rewarding, and even as an adult, it's very satisfying seeing the rubbish bags. But then what's dissatisfying is the next morning you see more rubbish back on the streets, and I don't know as a community how we overcome it. You know, people being more respectful and things like that. You know, picking up rubbish or not. The amount of rubbish you see around bins that people have obviously thrown and not actually gone to put it back in. I know the county council said that's the real issue, talking to them, obviously because they've supplied the equipment to the children. So, but they will be continuing. The county the Fraxton county
District Council.
yes, yeah, sorry. I just thought of Fraxton, yeah.
This is the 3-tier one.
Oh, okay.
We should only live in a 1-tier, it would make lots of
Okay.
There wouldn't be any gas for any of you.
a lot cheaper and more services.
Yes, we do. We do very much appreciate the work done by the 2 lads, and I did say so in an email.
Yeah, you did. Like, it's
to you.
actually a girl. Josephine is helping.
Joseph-
Yeah, Josephine.
one's a
It's
girl. Terribly sorry.
Joseph and
Yeah.
Josephine, sorry. 2 are doing it. But again, Arundel School do Duke of Edinburgh Award, and it's obviously, you know, there is a lot of children doing a lot of voluntary work. So I don't know whether that's something as well that the town council want to look at, because a lot of children have struggled to get volunteering work at the age of 13. You know, there's lots of children going into old people's home. Like, for instance, my daughter goes into Abbott House every Saturday night and absolutely loves it. Plays dominoes with the elderly. So it's something, again, there's children out there that want to do volunteering and things like that. So maybe, again, it's something we can structure. And I'm happy to help as a resident. Obviously take initiatives and things like that, but obviously would like the support of yourselves.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Item 121, consideration of requests from interested parties. Have we had anything?
No.
We haven't had anything. We move on to reports. Normally I'd give a mayor's report, but we've got such a full agenda on tonight. I'm going to skip mayor's report. You've heard most of it. You know most of the things that are coming up in it, and most of the things I've been involved in: neighbourhood plan, armistice, and also the library. So that's what most of it would be about. Do we have anything from district councillors, very briefly? Councillor Rycold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of things, I think. I'd like to know. District Council met as full council on 8th November. One significant item of interest was we approved we noted progress on the master plan and delivery framework for the Tresham Garden Village up at Deansthorpe. So work on that is moving ahead. Councillor Stern is on the project board, as is my colleague Councillor Miles, and they, of course, we can be confident, will keep a watchful eye open for the best interests of Arundel. Next, yesterday, as East Northamptonshire Council's representative at the Rural and Sparsity Group, which represents smaller, more sparsely populated rural
authorities, so it's where his interests are, in making sure that in discussion with government, smaller authorities get a fair share of the grant. Now, revenue support grant is coming to an end. Full repatriation of business rates isn't yet implemented, although there is a pilot for the Shire as a whole, which will be implemented in next financial year. So, our group decided yesterday to focus somewhat on rural social care and health matters. We had an excellent presentation from Jan Soliera. In spite of his name, he's English, who's the Chief Executive of United Lincolnshire Hospitals NHS Trust, on the work of the National Centre for Rural Health and Care, which is basically research-oriented, but with a view to identifying gaps in existing provision, especially those which impinge on smaller authorities. So, good progress has been made and will be maintained. That is all I have to report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rycole. I move on now to item 123, signing and sealing. The resolution that any two councillors and the proper officer may seal any document required by law to be issued under seal on behalf of the council. That's our standing order 14B. Do I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Chappell, and a seconder, please. Councillor Chesser. Those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you. We move on to item 124, Town Matters. 12401, to consider and approve the Town Council response to the proposed consultation on the review of Northamptonshire libraries.
Mr. Mayor, it seems to me slightly more logical to take the next item first, because the next item is to consider a response from members of the public on this subject.
We can take them in that order if you wish,
I
yes?
think we ought to consider their response, because we've heard quite a bit already,
Yes.
before we then go on to debate our response.
Okay. Okay, if everybody's happy with that, we'll take the 12402 first, to consider the response from the members of the public to the possible closure of Oundle Library and to discuss the options. The clerk like to come in here with anything that you've received from the public?
Well, just in general, there's been a lot of questions from members of the public about what's going to happen, a lot of people not knowing exactly, how to respond to the consultations, because they're very misleading.
Yes.
And I think probably what we're going to do on Thursday will try to make things a little bit clearer. And obviously we'll get their feedback
Yes.
from the questionnaires.
Councillor Peel.
Yeah, I actually, I can never remember your name, I know you, but I don't. I actually agree totally with this lady here. I think, something's got to be done, because obviously the libraries are being threatened all over Northamptonshire. And I would say that I'd agree with this gentleman as well. Somewhere, Oundle Council as a whole has got to stand up and say, no, it's not going to happen. We are keeping this library open, and we expect the District Council and the Northamptonshire Council to actually take notice. And if that means that we go head on with them, I think we've got to go head on with them. We mustn't let our library close.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add a bit?
I will let you, yes.
We've spoken to Tom Perskler on the subject as well.
Right.
And he is coordinating with his other MPs in Northamptonshire to battle to save the libraries.
Right. Yes, I'm hoping to meet Tom along with the other library, the mayor of the other library town that's involved, that's Thrapston, Sam Cribb and myself are hoping to meet Tom Perskler with our respective town clerks and to talk to him and put the case to him. So that's been requested. In fact, Councillor Rycole has been progressing that one for us with Tom Perskler. So we are trying to talk to Tom Perskler about it. We have met with the Friends of Oundle Library last week, the clerk and I, and we had a very useful conversation there. We've got a lot of things that we're looking at in common. So, I think that we've had some very encouraging conversations there. I've been to a number of meetings now on the library subject. I've been to a meeting of the Northamptonshire County Association of Local Councils, larger councils group, which is the top 20, the biggest 20 town and parish councils in Northamptonshire. And we met at Daventry a couple of weeks ago now, and there all the councils were shocked. They were all confused. We were all looking at the limited information we'd got, and we were all requesting more. And the one thing we were wanting to do, we knew that the Friends of the Libraries have got together. I think it's St James's in Northampton who are leading the Friends in a consolidated movement. And I urged Danny Moody, the Chief Executive of Northants County Association of Local Councils, to do the same thing with the councillors and clerks, so that we consolidate our efforts, so that we're all acting as one on the subject. So,
Could you just clarify what you mean by that? I mean, what are you discussing? Are all these friends discussing having volunteers come in to take over the library, or are you discussing a unified objection to the plans to close the libraries?
what we're all doing as councils is we're asking for information. We can't act really without information, and the information we've had is not clear. It's not very much. We've had just a handful of figures on a single sheet of paper. That's it for Oundle Library. That sheet of paper is all we've had from the county, and we're trying to get that expanded. I was at a meeting at Wellingborough Library last night, where again I was with members of other councils from round and about, talking to representatives from Northamptonshire County Council, or one of their subsidiaries, a company called First for Wellbeing, and I was saying that sheet is totally inadequate. I am wondering, they've shown 5 years performance of the library on there. I'm asking for the 5 years accounts and asking for those to be presented.
That sheet's inaccurate as well.
It is. So that's where we are. Councillor Hutton.
Can I just say that I think at the moment we're attacking this from the wrong direction. We should, in the first instance, be saying that we strongly object and that we expect the county council to continue to fund and provide library services. I mean, it's irrelevant what the cost is. It's not irrelevant, but I mean, it's not appropriate for us to be looking at those issues now. We should be, in the first instance, we should be pushing back strongly about the
You're coming back to 12401 again, which is our response.
Yeah.
But the response from the members of the public has been the one from the Friends group and the various people who've come in off the street to talk to us, and there's been quite a few.
Well, it's clearly there's a very strong feeling that we don't wish to lose the library.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's got to be the response from the council. In the first instance, to be very, very strongly challenge any suggestion that it's going to close.
Yeah. Councillor Chappell.
It just seems to me that whilst I always have some reservations about petitions, a petition that's already attracted 1,000 signatures in a town of this size would be ignored by this council at its peril. That seems to me to be a pretty strong indication of feeling. I think what worries me slightly is the fact that whilst we might very well want to put up a solid objection to the whole proposal, the fact of the matter is we may have to develop a plan B, because we may oppose it and we may try to go down that route anyway. So we do need a plan B. And I was interested in what was said about wanting to have a professionally staffed library. Because whilst that would clearly be the ideal, a no change scenario, it may not be potentially viable going forward to maintain it in quite the same way as it has done. And I'm hopeful that groups like the Friends, despite what we've just heard, would, if push came to shove, organise themselves in such a way that we could have town volunteers operating a library service, perhaps with a limited amount of professional input, maybe professional input shared between a number of local libraries such as Thamston. But I think the fact that people again bothered to turn out to this meeting simply to ensure that we hear from them is of itself indicative of a certain amount of public feeling in the town. Okay, we're packed out with 150 people saying the same thing, but I bet if you took a straw poll around the town at this minute, it would be overwhelmingly in favour of retaining the library service.
Yeah. Councillor Peake.
I think with the library, it's the one part of Arundel Town that needs to be kept, and I also think that Arundel Council, if, and hopefully this will never happen, should actually support it financially if we have to.
I seriously question how practical that is and how realistic, because we won't be able to increase the precept to the extent that we fund the library without a referendum.
Right. No, I think probably wouldn't, but I think as Councillor Chappell says, with the sort of feeling we have in Arundel, I'm sure some sort of referendum will actually work.
Councillor
Just a
Chappell.
point of information, whilst the district council and the county council might have to have a referendum if they try to increase precept over certain levels, at this stage this council is not so bound. If we chose to have a 100% increase, and by the way, I am not proposing we do, but if we did, there's actually nothing that anybody could do about it, except vote us out on the next occasion.
I will take a question from the floor, yes.
If I could just interject a little bit of information about the idea of volunteers stepping in to manage the library. I mean, you were pointing out that this sheet here that you have here is inaccurate. I mean, one thing it does say is that Arundel has 43 volunteers that help out in the library, and I did check today with the librarians who work there, and that is indeed true, that there are 43 volunteers who assist in the library, but some of them work 1 or 2 hours over the course of the year, not over the course of a week or even a month.
Yes.
So, but they get logged as volunteers. And a number of people who actually help with running the library, like be stacking books, is 1 or 2. And those are 1 or 2 volunteers. And so that's just, it's misrepresenting what volunteers contribute to the library. And then there's this one email that was shared to me from NCC that explained some of the critical factors you need to consider when setting up a community library. These are, and this would be your responsibility. These are a sound business case for delivering a community-run library, including your vision, purpose, financial projections, potential cost of consideration, management staffing, required assets for running the service, legal structure, risk assessments, timescales, community asset management and support agreement, training of volunteers, a comprehensive program of training developed and delivered by trained library staff covering library management systems, stock knowledge, library offers for adults and children, legislative responsibilities, safeguarding, copyright, data protection, insurance and premises management, recruitment of volunteers, fundraising and stock procurement.
Yes.
You would have to oversee this.
We.
If this was a community-managed library and you guys took responsibility for it, this is what you'd have. Somebody would have to do it.
Community.
These-
I'm
this is
going
not
to stop
something
you.
that
I'm going to stop you now. I've got to move on with the meeting.
Yeah, so
But you've had a very long say. But yes, we would have to manage the community. The support for that would come from a company called First for Wellbeing, which is a subsidiary of the County Council. They would still be in place. The meeting I was at last night, all of this was pointed out and the support they would give. However, I've had a phone call from Heather today saying that Heather Smith, the leader of Northamptonshire County Council and our county councillor for Oundle, saying that that was primarily intended for the smaller libraries, that the medium libraries are being looked at in another way. We have yet to find out what that means, but the proposal that was put out, to us last night, they were only talking option one of the three options, but they were spelling that out for the small libraries, not for the medium-sized ones, which is the 7, which includes Oundle. The 8 largest ones, which includes Northampton Central Library, Corby, Wellingborough and Kettering, their central libraries are in the large 8, and they would be remaining staffed and as they operate now. So I'm waiting now for a meeting with Heather to go through what she has in mind, and I believe she's also wanting a meeting with the Friends of Oundle Library for that same meeting.
Yes, she's meeting.
And I believe we're going also to see a library operating in another county. Have you been made aware of that?
No.
Right, well, we're also going to see a library operating in another county.
43 volunteers, they've included the Friends of Oundle Library, who are not volunteers.
Right.
They're just a team that work to promote the library.
Right,
They're not volunteers, we don't issue books, we don't work in the library.
right.
And that's an incorrect figure again.
I've got to keep us moving because we've got a lot of agenda. But the number of volunteer hours is shown on here as 798.72, very accurately. And divide that by the 43 volunteers and it's clear the average is 20 hours per year is the average of those 43 volunteers. So that just shows that some of them are doing very few hours, which is exactly what you've told us. Coming back to 12401, can I have a proposition then as to what the position should be for what the town council's response should be to NCC on the libraries? Councillor Peel.
I would just put it simply and say that Oundle Council will not accept closure of Oundle Library.
Fine. Any amendments to that? Anybody got any variations to that? Councillor.
The only thing I would say is that we need to respond to the consultation. The consultation lays out 3 options. 1 and 2 are acceptable to Oundle Town Council. We should be stating very clearly that whilst we regret any suggestion that any library should close, that at least with the first 2 options, Oundle Town Library is preserved, and that we would strongly suggest that one of those 2 options should be taken.
We did in fact do that at the meeting a while back when Heather Smith attended.
But we haven't given a formal response to the consultation yet.
Sorry?
But have we given a formal response to the consultation yet?
We have not, no.
So that's what our response needs to be then, yeah?
We can do that now. The consultation is not yet over, and we have got by the 13th of January, when the consultation period ends, we have got to make some formal replies by then in a particular form. But we can certainly send this response for now. Anybody got anything they want to add before we take a vote on it?
I know it's a slightly going off at a tangent, but if the secret agenda in due course is to realise some of the property value, that if anything is an asset of community value, it's that building over there. Or wherever, whichever direction it is, unfortunately, it is there. Whether we should actually make some formal moves along those lines to try to put a spanner in the works of any proposal to dispose of the library building itself, I just throw open for discussion. Personally, I think we should do everything we can, including
Absolutely. How do we do that?
What was put to the meeting last night was that, and this I stress, I've now been told is for the smaller libraries, but they were being told, number one, there would be no professional staffing, it would be volunteers only, and number 2, if they wanted the premises, they would either have to lease them from county, or they would have to buy them from county. Now, I'm waiting to find out whether there's anything better being offered to the medium-sized libraries, as to whether they intend to retain those, and also what they intend to say about staffing. So we don't know the answer to that yet, but we can certainly, we've had a proposition which I'd like us now to vote on, if we've finished the discussion. Councillor Chesson.
Just repeat I mean, I don't want to force us into an action, a course of action that we might not wish to take at a later time, because my view is it's a very, very complex situation.
Yes.
It's not a yes or no situation in my
Yes. I think the meeting that I went to last night was intended for small councils. Heather Smith to me today has indicated that the case for us would be different to the case that was put last night. What that means, we don't know. They want, I think, to deal with the small ones first and get those dealt with within this consultation period, and then start talking to us. How soon she starts talking to us, I don't know. The problem is, we've got to get together and sort out the precept for next year. Ideally, we'd be doing that in December. We can leave it as late as January. If it's going to go out with rate demands in March, East Northants like it by January to give them time to do their work. But I think they are being told by all the main towns with a library that this year we may be very late. It may be a case of ENC finance staff burning the midnight oil late on in March with late precepts coming in, because until then we won't know. The Cabinet decision, the consultation period closes on the 13th of January, but nothing happens then. That's the closing of the consultation period. 22nd of February, they have a Cabinet meeting at County Council, where Cabinet will come to a proposition to put to their full council. That wasn't pointed out until last night, when a county councillor present said the Cabinet meeting will not be the end of the story. Full county council, every county councillor will then vote after that, and the date of that full council meeting I don't know, but it's certainly after 22nd of Feb. And all of that is getting beyond the date by which we've got to get our precept in. Now, I've looked at various figures, and the numbers keep shifting depending on what we may or may not be asked to provide. And when I say they keep shifting, it's going from anything from keeping that library going, and these are my, don't quote me on these are my figures from the very limited numbers we've had so far, and very, very limited answers we've had to the questions. I'm still waiting on those accounts so we can be more accurate, but it could be anything from as much as 100,000 a year to run that library, to, depending on the deal from county, it may be as little as us chipping in about 26,000, and some of that is us acquiring the property. And anything in between. At the moment, it's virtually any numbers in between. So it's very much still a number gathering exercise. And I agree with Councillor Chesser, we don't want to put a spanner in the works and upset anybody. However, we do want to express very strongly the fact that we are dissatisfied with the way the whole thing has been handled, which we have told them at every single meeting. That, you know, we should have had all the information so that we can make the decisions, and they're aware of our feelings on that. But if we have a proposition, we have the wording.
Yes, because
like to read the wording.
response would be that we would not accept the closure of Arundel Town Library. And then Councillor Hutton did add that when we would be completing the consultation, although we strongly oppose any closure, option 1 or 2 would be preferable.
Are we going with
But
that?
even then, it depends on what option 1 and 2 really mean. We don't know.
Well, I know,
So-
and when you try and look at that consultation,
Personally, I think we should just stand out and just have a very, very simple, as Councillor Peel has said, a very, very simple proposition that can be changed along the way, that we just stand resolutely and say, no, this is not going to happen. And then deal with the bat off everything else that comes, because it sounds as if county council or filibustering almost to make sure that the figures aren't there, that no one can do anything about it before it actually comes. So we have to make a very, very strong statement very early on and say, no, it's not going to happen. Because we've already seen the response from the town, and I'm sure this is that's only a fraction of the town. If everyone were here and you asked them, they would all say, absolutely. Because I'm old enough and I was a student at the time, but the first round of library closures that came through in the 70s was a disaster. And now they're going to try and obliterate every library. This is extraordinary stuff. And it should be stopped now.
Councillor Chapel, we
Very
must move
sympathetic
this
to the
forward.
very, bold statement that we oppose any closure whatsoever. But Councillor Hutton's right, there is a formal consultation process and we have to put in a response to that. It's difficult to see how that response could be anything other than one that's set by the parameters of that consultation. At the moment, within that consultation, there are only 3 options. And we have to say what out of those 3 options we find acceptable. Over and above that, there is what comes out of this meeting tonight. What should come out of this meeting tonight is a very, very firm no, but it's not one or the other, it's both.
Can we say on the basis that on current basis, as the information is being given to us, we are unable to make any decision for options 1 and 2?
So I agree with Councillor Glenn on that. I think that 1 and 2 are that clear. I don't see how we can say we could accept either 1 or 2, because I don't think they're that clear.
Well, they clearly state that library would remain.
I also think that it's shifting sand, because I don't think these options will, I don't think they're set in stone. I think that the fact of the matter is they are shifting, they are moving as other things move. The negotiation goes on. While the consultation period continues, I think those things are moving. I don't think it's set in stone and, you know, it's a take it or leave it. I think it's negotiable. That's the feeling I'm getting from the meetings I'm going to. And that makes it difficult for us to decide which one we want.
There is a compromise, is there not? Because that consultation doesn't finish until the 13th of January. Which means that we could certainly defer the formal response to consultation to the next full council meeting, which is a month away, which may mean we know a bit more. It might even be possible for us to have a meeting at the beginning of January and put in our response at the last possible moment when we understand it better. But the message that could come out of tonight is a blank no way. Does that sound a sensible way of that?
Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea, but obviously if we're going to do that, then we really do need to know in more detail for the next council meeting what the shifting sands, if you like, are going to be. But I think we've still got to go fairly strong into this, because the problem is if we don't stand up and be counted now, after January the 13th and the 22nd of February, it's going to be too late. We're going to be sort of, dandling our feet in water that's not very warm.
And as the public have already said, this will be our legacy. We didn't fight hard enough to stop a library closing in a town that has a strong academic presence in the county, which is, it's obscene that we do not go and fight this.
Right. Are we sticking with those words, or are we changing those words, the proposition? Are we changing that proposition, or are we staying with the proposition the clerk read out? Because we need to vote on this. You happy to stick with those words?
I'm a fear that what I'm saying here amounts to an amendment to the amendment.
Go on.
I would still suggest that we postpone the formal response to the consultation to the last possible moment so we have the most information before we have to submit it. But we send a message out from tonight's meeting that simply says this town council strongly objects to any proposal to close the library in Handley.
That would be the wording of my
That would be
proposition.
good.
Right, we're taking that as an amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? And that's unanimous, so the previous propositions won't be called. That amendment is...
Sorry, did you have a seconder on that?
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Chesser seconds it, and it was unanimous. We now move on to 12403, which is likely to be equally contentious, to consider and approve the Town Council response to the proposed consultation from Northamptonshire County Council on the reduction in transport and highways services. Does anybody want to open the batting here?
Has there been any consultation? I haven't seen any alternatives, but in fact they don't fund it anymore.
No, but that's the consultation.
Oh, right.
That they are not. They don't give any options on this one.
Okay.
Just not
What do you feel about us stopping there?
So, it's meaningless.
They are having to cut services. It's up to us whether we want to take these services. Again, at the moment, we have no costing information. They're absolutely run off their feet. They can't provide us with costing information because anybody they've got running around costing things is sorting out libraries. So, you know, they are overwhelmed at the moment at county with dealing with all the requests. Councillor Glenn.
How can they put forward a proposition then if they haven't costed it? They must have costs. They must know what's going to save them.
They have some ideas of amounts they might save by not providing these services. They must know what these services have cost them in previous years for them to have an idea of how much they might save, how they get to saving this 10 million grand total from all the things that they're scrapping. And the question really is, are we prepared to step in to cover these services, and to what level of increase in our precept? Councillor Oates.
Well, actually, just really literally, it says what's our response to the proposed consultation. No, I mean, for goodness sake, if that isn't a massive ball of tangled wool, I'm a Dutchman, I'm not. No, but it says a response to the proposed consultation. But we can't respond to it because we are not in it yet. So my answer to this one is quite simple. We're not responding because you haven't stuck it up in front of our faces yet. Well, not quite those words, but you get the general idea.
I think that's perfectly fair, to be honest.
That's all right.
How can we cut?
Consultation is out there though. It is out there.
I think it's the wording on the agenda
Yeah.
rather than the...
Yeah.
I
it's
accept that entirely,
flawed.
but I'm trying to stick to what we're supposed to vote on.
How can there be consultation without facts, without knowing what the costs would be, without having any programme or any suggestion about how we would pick it up, not only with us but with other councils around the area, local councils? It's just meaningless. They want to cut it. There's nothing we can do about it.
Councillor Chapel.
I mean, in a sense, if you move on from Councillor Glenn's point, the reality is that what we really need to understand fully is the county council budget, so that we could say you're cutting in the wrong place. I dare say a few of us might start thinking, start at the top, via the chief executive. Is anybody who presides
He's
over
resigned.
He's already gone.
He's already gone.
Pity.
He jumped before he was pushed. I believe.
What was his compensation package?
Yeah. But I mean, and seriously, the problem is, if we are going to be meaningful, we know they've got to achieve the cuts. What we should be trying to do is suggest other areas where perhaps cuts could be affected. But to do that, you've got to have a full understanding of their budget.
Councillor Oates.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, in my my dealings with highways over a very long time, they protected their powers with an enormous amount of vigour. If you want to stick anything on a road, you have to actually really climb Everest and down again occasionally. So, if in fact we're being asked to take over this, that and the other, which effectively is what they're really saying, I'd really like to know whether we're just talking about filling the odd pothole or completely resurfacing, West Street. It just, it's so woolly. To me, the money bit, it's the money game, isn't it? And then basically, it is typical now.
We're not going to be asked to run highways. We won't be.
No,
be laying any streets, but
yes,
what
but
we will
I want
be.
to know what we would be asked to do.
We would certainly. It's been suggested we would fill potholes. It's been suggested that we will weed kill the pavements and the roads. It's been suggested that we will be road sweeping. It's been suggested that in the winter time we will certainly be providing the grit in the grit bins for people to spread themselves on the roads outside their houses, and we may well be actually operating a gritter and gritting the roads through the town at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, are you volunteering, Councillor Peel, to drive the gritter? Or
I would just like to make a note about the precept, because if we're going to be doing all that, then the
Yes.
precept we've actually looked at has gone out the window
Yes.
by miles.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, the
Yes.
problem we're going to have there is then going round to Oundle townspeople to say, well, you know, I'm sorry about this, but you're paying an extra £10 or £15 a week because the county council can't afford to do what we've got to do now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they're going to still take their same cut.
Well, but we
Yes.
did the same thing for the laboratories.
Oh, yeah.
On our car park next to the co-op. It's just shoving it so that people can say, oh, look how much money we spent. Anyway.
Well, just
Can we
very
put
quickly,
forward a
yes,
proposition,
no,
Councillor
well, I was
Humphreys?
just going to say that we've already heard from the members of the public about children litter picking around the town. Won't be very long at this rate before we have gangs of children volunteering to go around and spray weeds and fill potholes and do everything. It's just, once again, it's an obscenity.
Yes.
And it should, our response should be no.
I agree entirely. Because
So is the
otherwise-
proposition that we send a strongly worded representation that
Yet another one.
we feel very strongly about the fact that these services are not being provided at county level, and that we will endeavour to do what we can if called upon to do so. Would that be a suitable response at this stage?
I don't think we should offer the last bit of that.
No? Okay.
I mean, the problem is, if we're not careful, we're handing them a solution, aren't they? Saying, all right, we'll pick up the bill. I mean, that's not what we want to do.
And we don't, no one knows what the bill's going to be. So it's just endless. It's just an endless piece of rope. You'll be going around with a tin, knocking on doors, saying, "Can you give money to fill? Can you get them, or to run the transport for the people, low-income people that do live in Oundle, to get to Corby to buy their shopping, or get to Corby for their health services? It's just wrong."
Yes. On the transport bit, obviously things like the X4 bus, the 24 bus are not affected. Bus passes are not affected, but things like the Call Connect service will be affected. Now that will stop people, especially in the villages and in some of our estates here, getting into the surgery for their routine appointments, as well as getting into basic things like the shopping.
That's a disastrous for a lot of older people.
Yes.
In all areas.
Because we do live in a rural area. We're not well connected.
Yeah.
There is nothing here. And if you haven't got a car, you're stuffed.
And I have been speaking to the parish clerks of one or two of our neighbouring parishes. Clerks and councillors there are saying that if we go to them and talk to them about them chipping in with some of this, they're saying yes, they would help. If we have to provide services, they will help wherever they can. But they are saying, I had the call from one parish clerk last night saying, I need an answer from you almost tonight. because I'm not going to be late putting my precept claim in, and we are doing our budgets this week. So I've given him some literally finger in the air ideas of what it might cost to give him a starter, but told him those figures could be wildly inaccurate by the end. I can do no more than that. Councillor Oates.
I wish to just put a question to the clerk. You say that this consultation is somehow in the public domain. That may well be so, but I have to say, I don't take it as my responsibility to go trawling through everything on the NCC website. Have you got a direct
I've sent you
link
the
to this?
link.
Have you?
You've had
oh,
it,
well,
yes.
okay. In which case, I've got my head between my knees again. So,
Yeah.
would you be kind enough to send it to me again? That's what I've missed.
Can I have a proposition then? Can I have a form of words?
Just one,
Yep.
is it my understanding that the highway cuts is for 1 year?
Ooh.
Some of those other cuts is just for a 1 year period?
Some of them are, I think, but yeah.
That'll never happen.
That's, no,
If you believe that, then you're...
I'm going to say,
if you take it for 1 year, you'll have it for
well,
100 years.
you've got it.
I think once it devolves to us, it will stay with us.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Does the highway service include gritting and so on? Is that part of it?
Yeah.
So that's a
It
wind
is.
service,
Well,
yeah.
Yes.
a lot of economies of scale having it centrally run, rather than each little parish or small town having their own service.
I was going to say, we're going to start
With the infrastructure for
We're going to start getting our bypass.
We've already considered that at this larger councils meeting, where we've been talking about perhaps NCALP, the Northants County Association, may end up having to get the quotes in from companies who supply sand and salt. They may have to be looking at county-wide tenders, and then talk about delivery to 20 different locations. And it may be that the likes of Glapthorne, Ashton and Southwick and Barnwell would actually come to Oundle to pick up their bags of salt from us, but it may well be that we are at one of the 20 delivery points. That is all possible, and it's something that is being looked at. And Danny Moody, Chief Executive of NCALC, is attending one of the cabinet meetings at NCC to talk about libraries and about the highways and transport issues, and talk about how parish level, in its wider sense, might be able to help. So those conversations are already taking place as to how we might help if things are thrown our way.
But what I'm saying is it's not properly structured. The county will be saving 10 pence, but costing the rest of us £1.
Yeah. We could not buy sand and salt as cheaply per tonne as the county can buy it.
Can't we put a proposition to the NCC to dissolve themselves? Because quite frankly, the way they're running the NCC is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, God, if I ran a business like that, I'd have been gone bust 50 years ago.
They have, I believe, had a serious admonishment from central government, and I believe central government have indicated that if things don't improve, they may step in. It may be the civil service steps in. Councillor Vowles is nodding. You've heard the same thing, have you, Jake, that there is every chance that central government civil service might have to step in and take over these services if county were to totally collapse.
That is one of the threats that is there. Yes, it has been discussed.
Yes.
So as a local council, can we write to the Secretary of State or whoever is in charge of it, asking them to step in? Because they're letting us down.
I think it's terrible what this council are doing. I mean, I know they lost a lot of money through idiots in Northampton Town Football Club. There's no
Well, that's the Borough Council.
That's the Borough
Totally
Council.
separate.
Sorry,
That's
it's
the
the
Borough
Borough Council. I apologise. I got that wrong. But I think it's totally terrible that they should be losing this sort of money somehow. I mean, where's all the money gone? You know, what have they done with it? You know, I mean, East Northants Council, as I understand, have got quite a little bit of spare cash.
We don't have to spare. We're not woke.
Can we reword that? They have reserves.
It's even reserves.
They have reserves for a rainy day. What they haven't got is reserves for a tsunami
No.
that seems to have hit the county from
From NCC.
NCC.
Yeah.
And
it's the local...
even with all, is it seven borough and district councils within the county? I believe it's 7, isn't it? All of them put together won't have the reserves, I don't think, to be able to spare enough to bail that one out. I will take a...
Just a question, I mean, Heather Smith has said that all of their money is being taken up by social care.
Yes.
And that's why they need to make £9 million worth of cuts this year. So what does she mean by social care?
A trip to the Bermudas. For her. Sorry.
I don't know, I mean, I'm generally asking, I really don't know what she means.
Councillor Rycold, can you clarify that?
I can indeed, since so happens, I served 3 terms on the county council, stepped down in 2013, before the difficulties began. In fact, what difficulties we thought we had them sorted. Then, social care comprises statutory services for children and young people, including children in care. The technical term is children looked after, whether in foster care or children's homes. Child protection, intervention, and also adult social care, to get paid for. That comprises it. These are the biggest part, really, of the county council's current spending parts, and they must be protected. They're absolute, because people are vulnerable.
I'm totally in agreement that obviously all that sort of spending should be safeguarded, but you know, where's the rest of it gone? What have they done with it to actually lose so much money and be in such dire needs now?
Can we have a form of words
Sorry,
of
I'm
our response
going on
to...
about something that's totally
We really must move
yeah.
on with this meeting, so if we could have a form of words as to what proposition we want to make, whether we want to send a response to county, or somebody mentioned the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, Sajid Javed. If you want to write to him, then let's have a proposition, and let's have the wording, please, and let's do it and move on. Who has a form of words they would like to give us?
Well, as this is a consultation at the moment, I would say that the Honourable Council would say at this moment in time we have no comment towards this until further information is available.
We reserve judgment until we have further information. Are you happy with that?
Yep, pretty well.
Can we put that as a proposition?
So, point of information, can the clerk tell us when this consultation closes? Is it the same?
Well, as far as I'm aware, and I was thinking that this was the date for this particular part of the consultation closes on the 1st of December.
Yes, 1st December.
That's it. That's very quick.
So you haven't really got time to think about it.
Councillor Hutton.
I think we should just say that we object to any reduction in the services received from county, and as we've got, well, I'm not even, no, I think that's what it needs to say. Actually, I don't think we should be saying any comments about we don't understand what the cost it might mean to the council, because you know they've not provided it. Why should we ask for it? Because we're just putting ourselves forward to pick up the bill. So I think we should just write and say no.
Keep it simple.
Yep.
That's what we're sending then. That's a proposition from Councillor Hutton. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
From Councillor Peel. Those in favour? Okay, I'm going to move us on. That's unanimous.
Yeah, you can also go in and do it individually as well if you like. That's what it is. 12404
to consider purchasing mobile flashing speeding signs to put up in Oundle. You've got the information in your pack. Councillor Peel.
Yeah, this is something that I'm keen on trying to persuade the council in doing for several reasons. I live just off the Bennefield Road, And I know there has been accidents in other places around the schools, Cotterstock Road, Platform Road, Station Road. Now, all those areas are 30-mile-an-hour speed limits. Some of them, on Benefield Road, we have 2 signs where it says 30-mile-an-hour, slow down. Doesn't make any difference at all. What you've got to do is show the speed of the individual cars. Now, the problem we have as well, and this is coming out and out of town and in town, is that cars on Station Road, Cotterstock Road, Platform Road and Benefield Road, they get to a certain point and it can be up to half a mile away from the end of the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, that these cars are doing 50, 60 miles an hour coming out of town, not just into town. So I think we need to have this sort of slow down message, not just coming into Oundle on those 4 main roads, because Barnwell Road is okay because it's got that little bridge over there, so that tends to sort of slow people down. Although when you get to Barnwell Park, they're still going mad down there. But I think we also need to have those signs done the other way, coming out of town, because people are going too fast. I mean, 2 years ago, or 2-3 years ago, I don't know if you remember, we had an air ambulance on Benefield Road because somebody was going so fast coming out, they smashed into a car that was turning right because he couldn't see the car because there was a slower car in front of him he was overtaking. And that's the stupidity of drivers. And we've got to do something because eventually...
A speed sign like that's going to slow down an idiot like that.
No, it won't. But what I'm saying is it might slow down the general people that just go at 40 feet.
I've sat on the JAG in various forms over the years for a very long time, and one of the things that has been a constant irritation, if you like, has been speeding. And one of the things that we've learned from doing speed, there are things called true value lines that you can put on the road, and they measure all the speeds. And a lot of the speeding, I'm afraid to say, is only a perception thing. It's not an actuality. And we measured something like 33,000 vehicle movements one time, and only a handful of speeders. It's not as bad as you think it is.
Well, I think the problem is
I'm afraid to say, and villages will all tell you that.
Yeah. I just think that if we have these signs put up now, I think in the longer term it will calm people down over a period of time. It's not going to end speeding. It's not going to end speeding at all, but it's going to help. And I just worry that, you know, the time is going to come when we have a lot of
more question. I must move this forward.
It's not a question, it's just a statement that the designs of the signs that are proposed are possibly the best that you can get, really.
Yes, we're looking at £1,900 per sign. How many
I'm going to say they're an awful lot of money, but the fact is that a sign that says, "Oi, you're doing 35 miles an hour," and a red thing that comes up, or "Thank you very much, you're doing 29, we love you."
Right. I'll take the
Just one quick one. I mean, this was just an email that I received. There are a lot of different companies,
Yeah, of course.
and they are literally talking about that as their basic price.
Yeah.
What they want to do is they want to come out and they want to see where you're going to be putting it, because
exactly.
you move them from lamppost to lamppost. Now, I know that a lot of issues that have happened recently since we've got new lampposts, they are different and they're not as strong, so they don't actually take certain weights. So you would have to then speak to somebody, you know, highways, get permission to put these up. So it may be that it may be more than £1,900.
Is this a permission to explore at this stage, so that we look at costs, we look at viability, we look at where they might be positioned? Can I propose that then, to get this moving, that we... I propose that we explore the cost and location of flashing speeding signs.
Well, and the cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, does it really matter? I'm not being horrible, Val, but if it saves one person's life, the cost is immaterial.
Well, we might have to balance it against libraries.
But we have to have a cost in order to approve it. So
Ironically, though, this would normally fall under highways. Because they are that sort of those things.
right. I'm prepared to propose that if someone will second it. Seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Those in favour?
Yeah.
Let's get this moving. So we're exploring that. We perhaps need a working group of a couple of councillors to look into this, if we've any volunteers. The next thing, we've taken so long, the little lad's had to go off, he's probably sound asleep by now. 12405, to consider a request from a resident to organise a town litter pick. You heard what his mother had to say about the excellent work they're doing. I sent them an email congratulating them on their splendid effort. They've had lots of thanks from all over town.
We both put our hands up here.
Right.
We always had an annual litter pit
We did.
in
Right.
the town for
Yes.
years and years and
Yep.
years.
Right. We did. Right.
Can we not resurrect?
And we should resurrect
We
it.
should resurrect it.
Let's resurrect it.
Lots
We
of
have a
communities
proposition
do
from
it.
Councillor
Joining
Chester.
in and doing it.
Absolutely.
Proposition from
Community
Councillor Chester for a litter pick. Do I have a seconder? Councillor
Yes.
Chapel. Those in favour?
Yes, I
Unanimous.
can supply 2 litter pickers.
We will look for someone to take that one forward
When are you
and
thinking
liaise
of,
with.
what time of year? Was it springtime?
We did it in spring.
Oh, yeah.
I think spring is the time, isn't
Yeah.
But you don't want to do it in December, do you?
it? Nobody turn out.
Would be of the
Right. We move on now to council matters. Item 125, to receive the clerk's monthly report. I think you've got it there in
Yeah.
writing, unless Emma particularly wants
I haven't
to
got anything. If
state
anybody's
anything in
got any
particular.
questions, but-
If we can take that as read, you've got the information, and the clerk has told you of all the events she's been involved in. I move on to 12502, to approve representative for the data protection course that has been organised by Ashton Parish Council.
Yeah, this is, I'm going on a course that Northampton Calc are running, and that's in January, but at the same time, Ashton have got somebody else coming to their parish, and they've opened it out to all the parishes around. Now, Hanukkah's going to go on this one as well, so we're both attending 2 different ones, but there is one other place if anybody would like to go. It's only £5. We're literally just helping pay with the room.
I think that's also we're doing that on Parson Latham's.
Well, you're going on that course? Yeah, I would imagine
Yeah,
that you would
yeah.
need to be going on that as well.
I think that's been covered on Parson Latham's.
Right, okay, but if anybody else would like to attend, just let me know and I'll
Put
send
one
one.
down, I will attend. If nobody else is offering to, I will attend. Okay, I'll move on then to, we need to vote on that, we need to approve that. Do I have a proposal to approve the representative? Councillor Chapel, seconded Councillor Peel. Those in favour? Unanimous. Right. We move on 12503, to consider and approve the protocol for the death of a sovereign. This comes up.
I know it's not particularly nice, but a lot of councils are now putting this in place and getting ready in case anything should happen. And I know that Vaughan's have already put theirs in place. We were originally waiting for East Northants,
Yeah.
but they haven't, and I just think they haven't. They haven't approved their policy. So
We did something last year, didn't we?
Yeah, we went.
yeah, you went to,
you
but
were
they
briefed.
did. Yeah, they hadn't put together their policy. You went, but it wasn't. You know, they haven't actually put it and approved it.
Clerks and chairs were asked to
yeah.
attend and were briefed on what procedures would have to take place in the event of the monarch.
But I think that
passing
was
away.
just explaining it, but they haven't actually done anything formal. So
Right.
basically, this is the policy, and I possibly think we should.
Look, I'm
Get
trenched
something
through
in
it.
place.
I'm trenched through it, and frankly, I don't see there's any reason why we shouldn't approve it.
So that's a proposal from Councillor Oakes. I have a seconder from Councillor Chester. Those in favour? Anybody against? One against.
I just say that since we're talking about such a gloomy event in the week that Her Majesty celebrates her 70th wedding anniversary, could we send her the Town Council's congratulations on 70 years?
Yes. And get it there by courier very quickly.
That could be sent.
Yeah.
I could send that. Okay, I'll move on then to item 126, financial matters. I come now to Councillor Glenn to take us through the financial matters for Town Council.
Well, it's the first accounts I've seen for a couple of months. You've all seen the problem with that. So I don't intend to go through them in detail. I'm sure you all read them. They're up to the usual standard. So it's ones we've been working on for a long time. I've checked the bank reconciliation for last month. That seems to be okay. We're working well within budget. In fact, we're working below budget, mainly because there are a lot of savings, well, not a lot of savings, a lot of expenditure which we haven't incurred yet, including Snipe Meadow, the kitchen.
It's just the front page.
And I think there's money spent on the courthouse and marketing. And hopefully we'll get most of those underway before the end of this financial year. We seem to be more or less on target with courthouse money coming on, if not ahead. I'm sorry, I just want to shuffle these bits of paper around. Here we are. We do have about £9,000 worth of money that's owed to us. Now, a lot of that's basically preschool, and I'd say it's Northamptonshire County Council, which is very old. I don't know how we can address that. How
Just by chasing it. We are chasing at the minute.
Can we
Because they've
put
actually put in there, they've actually told us to send in our invoice by the end of this year for this year, and that is the previous year.
It's disgraceful.
Send in the shares.
Yeah, exactly. Put them on stop. Anyway, everything else seems to be more or less in order. Staff costs are running as normal, hubs, getting the sort of expenditure we expected it to get, or sorry, the income we expected it to get, which isn't enough. And that's it. I don't know who's got any other comments or any other questions to ask.
Well, only by way of a comment, my wife was in the hub the other day with a group of people and could not believe how cheap it was to get a bowl of soup and some sandwiches. I'm told that we charge 50% more than nobody would have batted an eyelid at it.
I think you're absolutely right. And if you look at the hub account, which are also attached, it shows a considerable loss, which is not even a considerable loss. It's more of a loss because it hasn't included any of the house overheads.
So it's a considerable loss, even on paper.
Yes, it is. So we have to address, we're addressing the margin situation at the moment, and we're going to have a look at the whole thing again, I think.
Well, just on that point, I think, once again, I think I've said it before, and I think everyone knows my take on it, that the hub should be, we should be not trying to run the hub as a money-making business. It should be there.
Money-losing business.
No, I know, but what I think there's a fine balance there somewhere. It should be there to help the community rather than drain the community. And it's an important thing just to remind yourselves occasionally that it's not there just to as a cash cow. It's actually there to service the public as well.
Well, the point is it's draining the community at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no. Point taken, Councillor Glenn, absolutely. But I'm just.
There will be a point.
But there is what I'm trying to suggest is there's a fine balance that it needs to stay open, but it needs at some point, perhaps.
They can't stay open at any cost.
Well, it can be subsidised.
That's all right. I mean, it was always intended that it would be not-for-profit arrangement.
We're not-
But as
we're
Councillor
not-
Glenn says, we're back now to, you know, what else are we going to subsidise then? It looks as though we might have to do that on the highways and the library and, you know.
I think
So
we've got to,
you're
we've got to move on. We've got to
okay,
approve.
fine.
We either accept these accounts or not. So if we have a proposition that we accept,
I'm happy to propose.
you're proposing. Councillor Oakes is proposing. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chesser, those in favour? That's unanimous. Payments for October. Councillor Glenn, want to take us through the payments?
Well, again, we've got a list of payments there.
Yeah,
There's nothing exceptional. I suppose the biggest one is daily cleaning,
Yeah.
which we expect. But again, all of that money will be hub, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Courthouse letting fees, well,
It isn't just hub, it's...
No, I know it's not just hub.
It's the whole of the building, cleaning and caretaking.
I appreciate that, but there will be an element of hub in there. Apart from that, there's still damage actually at £800. Apart from that, it's a normal run-of-the-mill what we expect. So,
Do we have a proposition to accept the payments? Councillor Peel, seconded by Councillor Oakes. Those in favour? That again is unanimous. And we move on to 12603 to approve expenditure of £250 for registration to complete Silca portfolio. This is for our estates officer who is progressing with her Silca qualification and needs this money, this registration fee, in order for that to be approved.
I propose it.
Proposed Councillor Oakes, seconded Councillor Peel. Those in favour? Unanimous. Move on quickly to 12604 to approve attendance of staff member on a touch typing course.
Yes, I think I did give you some information on this.
Yep.
This is the one that's actually between Christmas and New Year. This we won't be going on that one, but it will be another one. But one of the members of staff has shown an interest.
Can you include councillors as well?
I couldn't understand the cost for that. I mean, where is this course?
Where is it?
Yeah.
It's in. That's the place where this person lives, I think. It does say it on there. It's local, very, very local.
That doesn't include anything downstairs.
No. I think it's just in the 8th floor. That's it.
It's only just up the road, yes.
What do you think?
Do we have a proposer for this?
I propose it to say.
Councillor Peel, seconder. Councillor Glenn. Those in favour?
For goodness sake.
Thank you. We've moved rapidly through these, I hope. 12605 to approve staff training on Excel and Office 365.
Yes, I was hoping that Councillor Fuller was going to be here because it's Councillor Fuller who, this is what he does as a living. And I was trying to find Excel courses and various things, and Hannah just said, why didn't you ask Councillor Fuller? And I did, and he said, yes, he would be more than happy to do so. There would be a cost element in it. And he was sort of saying it would approximately be about £50, something like that.
What, to train everybody?
Yeah, I know, which
Well, I think
is
that's
a lot different to what I've been
Silly
looking at.
bargain.
A lot different.
Yeah.
Well,
Put the whole town on it.
They only have one councillor.
Office 365 is, the thing that we're actually we're keen on is the Excel. That's what everybody wanted to start with. But obviously he said he can do that. You can do it, but I just think,
We might well follow up with PowerPoint
yeah.
so that we can do these marketing presentations in the office.
I'm quite happy to do training for anybody free, so
And
there we go.
we might also need to move on to publisher as well at some stage,
Yeah.
so that we've got somebody trained up to assist Emma with the Oracle.
Absolutely.
So do I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Glenn, seconder. Councillor Humphreys, those in favour? Unanimous again.
We'll get
Continue.
more accurate costs, obviously, and
Right.
I spoke to
Right.
in more
The only thing
detail.
that confused me about that is that Excel was actually included in Ofwat Street 65.
Well, I know, it's the
It's
Excel
all
was the one
right.
that we were talking
I've
about,
got
and then he said,
365.
well, I can do Excel.
We must move on. We must,
All right, yes,
should not debate it after we've
this is
voted.
true, but I don't talk as much as some.
12606 to approve the expenditure of up to £360 for royal framed images.
Right, well, this is, but I'm literally going by Rawn's Town Council lead, and it's actually been quite difficult to, you can't just print them off the internet and photocopy them, you do have to literally buy them. And 4 prints that you would obviously, if in case something happened, you would stand next to a book of condolence. We're looking at approximately, well, £360.
For the set.
Yes, for the set.
Right. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Hutton. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Chesser.
We've got no choice.
Those in favour? Those against? Those abstaining? 3 abstaining, 1 against, and 1, 2, 3, 4 in favour.
So sorry, 1 against, 3 abstentions.
Yes.
And 1 against, yes.
Yeah, I've got that one.
12607.
So, does that mean that is actually carried, or?
Yes.
It was carried because 4
Four for it.
voted for it, yes.
It's 4-3.
Right, 12607 to approve the expenditure for replacement Christmas lights. We've got a situation where the lights around the NP building, when they were put up, they don't work. There are obviously some problems there. I think we can probably take them down. The boys can have a look and see if there's anything obvious, but otherwise it's looking cheaper at the moment to rent some to put up.
We can't rent them.
We can't rent
They don't know, they won't rent.
They won't rent.
No.
But we're looking at in future years renting, aren't we? Or is
We
that
are. The
happening?
thing is, the company that we use at the moment, this is their final year, and then we'll be going out to tender again. And the thought was that we may look to rent, because obviously each year you change and what you like. But because we are in the final year with this particular contractor, they won't rent to us.
Right.
Because it's not cost effective for them. So we would have to buy the lights. But I think even if we buy the lights, this is literally just to go around the NP building. We could probably still do that, and if we want to rent others. But we're in a situation at the moment, we have no lights for that building at the moment.
Not wishing to influence your decision, but on the 2nd of December I'm going to be switching the lights on. If I'm standing in pitch darkness outside the NMP building with the big red button in complete darkness, it's going to be a bit of a flop.
I've got a very powerful
Don't let
torch.
that influence your... No, I'm being rather sarcastic.
No, I've got a very powerful torch, mate. Rest assured.
But anyway, for the lights are going to cost right, 1,600 for the actual lights to buy them,
It's
with the
gonna
power
be-
connectors, some extra work's got to be done to the electrical infrastructure. So the total cost is £1,960 plus 750 to take down the ones that are there and put new ones up. So we're looking at about 2,600.
Yeah,
I think the law.
Can I just ask what extra works and infrastructure will have to be?
In
So
addition,
this-
electrical infrastructure in the nearby column will be required as the wall box is no longer there. So there's extra electrical.
As the wall boxes
The
on
wall box.
Wall boxes, that.
How are they going to connect? And I wonder the other ones don't work then.
I can't comment on it, but this is the information that I have
That
received.
might be the answer. Councillor Glenn might have hit on it. No, I don't think
Yeah.
we're quite...
I mean, it's, it is
that
required.
naive.
Hanukkah has looked into it in detail with them.
We have no alternative. We have to go ahead.
Well, it's whether you want, if you
Do I
want,
have
if
a
you're okay
proposer?
not to have them.
I'll propose it.
Councillor Glenn, seconder. Councillor Chapel, those in favour?
Yeah,
And it's unanimous.
that's a reluctance, but anyway.
Right, we move on to 127 planning matters. To receive the minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 7th of November. You've got the information in the pack. Councillor Chappell is looking at me as if to say, you've got it, you
Yes,
don't need me to read it.
Unless there's a question, prosecutors can move rapidly on.
Right. 128, neighbourhood plan, 12801 to receive an update on the neighbourhood plan. We've got one or two, very briefly, one or two new volunteers. We've got somebody who is looking at the images around town to go in the plan. We've got somebody who is looking at green spaces, a new person, and the whole thing seems to have picked up a pace. We've got the dates when various events are taking place, and they've all been publicised in the Nene Valley News. The working group is moving steadily forward. We've got another meeting on the 30th, Thursday the 30th, to go through the individual housing sites and look at individual detail of each housing site. And things are progressing. I think that sums up pretty well where we are, unless anybody's got anything they want to add, those who were present at the meeting. No, everybody happy with that?
When's the meeting this Thursday? What time is it?
7:30 at the Queen Victoria Hall.
And that's a public presentation. The neighbourhood plan plus library plus other information will be laid out on tables. You'll be able to browse at your leisure, moving around the room. There will be notepads so that you can make notes as you go around. You can also leave us messages.
Notepad. Right. Okay.
Right, we need to get some notepads, yes. So that you can make notes as you go around. You can leave messages for us in the ballot box by the door, and you can also complete the questionnaires as you go around. So that's where we are with that. It's our first neighbourhood plan event, but it also is acting as a sounding point for the library and the other NCC cuts as well. Everybody happy with that? That's the update on neighbourhood plan. We move on to 129 estate matters. To agree to a volunteer setting up an Oundle Town Council Facebook page and to promote the markets and town events.
I propose that. I don't want to set up a Facebook page, but I propose it.
I'll second it. I saw the message. It's very good.
And I'm hoping that marketing are going to get very well involved with this person so that they're liaising with marketing on the stuff that they're putting up. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you. 12902 to receive the notes from the Marketing and Communications Working Party. You've got those in your pack. Unless anybody wants us to specifically go through those, I think we can take those as read. Everybody happy? Yes. 130 correspondence for action, none. Correspondence for information is none. That moves us on to please note that in view of the special and or confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, it is advisable in the public interest that the public be temporarily excluded and they are instructed to withdraw. Our Standing Order 3C. Do I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Chappell, a seconder. Councillor Glenn. Those in favour? Anybody against? Right, the first, right, and item 13201, we would like to minute that we have received an update on the accounting procedures review report. Item 13302, I would like to ask for a proposal that the action of the clerk and mayor to extend the contracts is endorsed. That's proposed by Councillor Chappell, it's seconded by Councillor Oakes. Those in favour? And that's unanimously carried. Thank you. Very quickly round the table, any other matters, relevant matters, report only. These are not propositions, but any items you want to bring up. Round the table, Councillor Glenn. Councillor Chappell, Councillor Chesser, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Hutton, Councillor Peel, Councillor Oakes. There being no other business, I close the meeting at 9:43.
Right, come on.